Hey everybody, here's Dr. Puppet once again with another Puppet's Dojo, and welcome, and I'm glad that you're tuning in for the VOD of the third edition of the podcast. So, first and foremost, I want to thank you, Peter and Splyce, for allowing me to do this podcast with you. In case you're not familiar with him, he's gonna introduce himself. We're gonna talk about League of Legends and coaching a lot this episode. So if you want to be a coach, you might want to stick out until the end. I'm starting a Patreon actually. And I want to give this a highlight before we jump into the episode, because I want to pursue and make an audio podcast version as well for everybody listening on the go, and for the people that want to obviously have the benefits of watching the video, you can always watch on YouTube. It will always be free, but if you want to support me and my content and all the other efforts I do to make and create value for you guys, entertainment of course, you can now support me on Patreon. So check this out. I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, have fun with the episode. Alright guys, so welcome to the third episode of the Puppets Dojo podcast, and today I have a very special guest, a dear friend of mine, someone I highly appreciate taking the time to be a part of the show and talk to us. And as we have a head coach of Splyce, one of the LEC teams, in case you don't know, Peter Dunn, welcome to the Puppets Dojo. How are you doing?
Hi, hello, Dr. Puppet. Sorry for the delays today. We spent about 15 minutes, 20 minutes trying to find a working webcam. So unfortunately, fortunately we found one, but unfortunately it took about 20 minutes. So I'm really sorry for the delay.
Don't worry about that. Like, better late than sorry, because at least we have you here, right? And we can talk about a lot of League of Legends. And I think many of my followers from Brazil will know you, obviously, for coaching NTZ back in the day. And people highly appreciate you talking about League of Legends as I do, because every time I talk with you about League of Legends, I feel like I'm a noob again. Because you somehow, and we speak like 1 week, and then 1 week later, you know, like basically 10 times as much as you knew the week before. And this is like always a pleasure for me to talk with you about League of Legends and learn a lot.
I think you're being a little bit overly kind there, but it's definitely interesting to talk about things, especially because I saw you were in Europe for week 1 of LEC. How have you been enjoying the new LEC season so far? It's a bit hard to judge how interesting the season is from outside, because obviously we're working every week to perform as best as we can, so it's really stressed. So a stress situation, so you don't really get to enjoy it. But
so
how have you enjoyed
to summarize for me, like this experience at first, the new studio is great. So it's a lot of fun being there. I guess we're having a lot of fun seeing Fnatic right now, because at some point we're gonna see either Fnatic climb to the ranks again, or we'll see them struggle throughout the year, which could be a very interesting thing to follow. So I'm excited to see how that works out. I'm definitely excited as well, like to see how the newer teams kind of work out, because EXO is an interesting team to watch. I think Rogue might be a dark horse throughout the tournament, and SK already pulled an upset, technically. So it's definitely been a pleasure to watch, because it's so up in the air, except for what we all kind of expected from Misfits and G2 going in. And everything else is just like, alright, things are looking better than we expected for the start, so this is gonna be fun. Yeah, so far I'm excited, and I'm waiting for the moment that actually G2 might crash and burn, or Misfits actually get the groove on and Gorilla starts to shine.
Well, I mean, I've been very impressed with the quality of the play that we've seen in the early season, actually, because normally when new teams come together, you expect it to take a little bit of time to gel. I mean, at the start of last year, there was a lot of, how should we say, not so good League of Legends happening in Europe, including from Splyce, right? Like, I'm not going to try to defend Splyce at the start of 2018. We were not good at the start of 2018, but we got it together later. But I think that this season, the thing that's really been striking is how good and how fast some of the teams have found synergy. G2, Splyce are playing G2 and Schalke this weekend. Both of those teams have looked extremely solid. And basically, they both made major changes to their lineup. I mean, G2 have changed basically 3 players. I mean, if you count moving perks to ADC, and Misfits have changed 3 as well, right? Yeah. So the fact that both of those teams have come out and look so strong has been very impressive, because normally you would expect this to happen by week 5 or week 6. So,
definitely. I mean, even to say that Perks is performing as one of the best in the region already, like in the upper half of the AD carries in the region, I think that's impressive to say for a few games. And Caps just doing his thing all over again, just on a different team. I think this speaks for the region itself, right? The talent is there individually speaking, and I think it's just a matter of time the teams will get even better, right?
Sure. But it's really interesting, actually, because with G2, lots of people are saying, I've read 1 or 2 comments saying that Splyce have had quite an easy schedule at the start of the season, but G2 have had almost the same strength of schedule as we have.
Yeah.
And people, I think there's a double standard here, because when G2 almost lose to Excel, everybody says, "Oh, G2 Caps is insane, he 1v9." And when Splyce almost lose to Excel, it's the same boring Splyce from last season, can't play any other style, really boring. You don't see Kobe 1v9 carry or things like this. No, it's Splyce boring. So it will be interesting to see how this.
Yeah, Peter, can you stop please teaching those guys how to play League of Legends? We want to see someone hard carrying the team, okay? We want a shit show and then Kobe hard carrying, okay? Can you do this for the G2 game, please, next week? Can you somehow arrange that your team just will not perform and Kobe then gets a pentakill in the end?
Well, I would love to see future me attempting to persuade Humanoid that Lulu is a champion. He should definitely be playing mid under any circumstances. I suspect that may not be an option for next week.
Well,
guys, who knows?
I mean, this is gonna be for me a match, the match of the week, because for me right now the new mid laners that are in the LEC, I'm getting to know how good they are, if they can, if they are getting exploited by Caps, or they can actually punish Caps for his aggressiveness. So for me, the exciting thing will be to see how good Humanoid performs in lane against him. This is for me the pleasure so far. How good are the people handling Caps individually speaking?
Yeah, but I don't think Caps should be the only barometer which we judge EU mids against, right? Because I think that, if you had said at the start of the season, now that Niski has gone to North America, who are the 3 strongest mids in EU, right? You would
definitely.
Most people would generally have said Nuke Duck, Jizuke, and Caps, right? And Humanoid has played against Jizuke, and he was 50 CS up in lane.
Yeah.
He's played against, in a favorable matchup, but even still, 50 CS is not nothing. He's had an extremely strong performance against Nuke Duck right now.
Yeah.
People are not willing to say, "Oh, look, this guy's a guy who's challenging, who's already shown his class against top mid laners." It's always a case of, how will he do against Caps? And even it doesn't matter how he performs against Caps on Saturday. He's already shown his level.
Definitely, he showed already that he can play League of Legends. I'm not denying that fact. Just for me, the curiosity is, which level is he already? No, I'm not denying the fact that he already played well against Shizuke and Nuke Duck, that are 2 impressive mid laners individually. But I still feel like that Caps is different than the other really strong mid laners, especially right now. And that's why I want to see that he be handled to handle Caps specific. For me, this is the pleasure.
It will be a very exciting matchup. I think the real thing to say about Humanoid is this is a guy who has no fear. He has absolutely no fear whatsoever. Normally at the start of the season, when you have a rookie player, I have a speech. I'm going to let you in on a secret, right? I have a speech at the start of the season, which is where I go and say, it's normal to be nervous, channel your energy, go out there, fight and show how strong you are. And the day that you don't have your nerves anymore on stage is the day when you should no longer think about playing professional league, right, at the start of the season, before the first game of the season. And I took one look at Humanoid on the day of our first game of the season against Excel, and this
he was stone cold.
he has the eyes of a stone cold killer. he is a very, very impressive human being as well as a player. And this is something which we'll see this season.
So since we are at it, right, before we talk a bit about you and obviously your career as a coach, where did you pick this guy up? Like, why did you pick Humanoid up after you knew that you're not continuing with Niski at Splyce? Where and how and why Humanoid?
Okay, so as the thing to remember is that Splyce are not just coached by me, right? Like, we have a trio of coaches who handle a lot of things on Splyce, which are Duke, Mac, and me. Okay, and I've stepped back a little bit from the LEC team because I'm helping a bit I'm splitting my time between LEC and Academy, and therefore I'm not really the right person to lead the LEC team out on stage because I'm not with them every single day of the week.
Yeah,
I'm there like 75% of the time, but I'm not there 100% of the time. And Duke is doing a fantastic job so far, leading scrims for the main team. But Mac is somebody who knows the EU scene very well, and he is a person who keeps tracks on a lot of the young talent which is coming through.
Yeah.
And when Splyce were looking for an academy team last year, but decided against it at sort of the last minute. And Humanoid was a player that he was telling me, watch this guy. This guy's going to be a star of the future. Honestly, I hadn't heard of him at this point in time, but when I saw that he moved to Turkey, we spent a lot of time like really watching him very closely playing in the Turkish league, and he stood out. Like him, Broken Blade, and Abadage in particular, as three very young players, looked exceptionally good in the Turkish league. I mean, obviously there were other people who looked good in Turkey as well, but for players of their ages to look that strong against people like GBM, people like Thaldrin and Fab Fabulous and all of this for Broken Blade was extremely impressive. Yeah. Exactly. So we that really made us sit up and look. And I mean, when it was clear that Niski wanted to explore other options, I just need to sneeze. Turning off my mic so that I don't sneeze. Basically, he was somebody we were immediately looking at. I mean, there was no question we wanted to sign him for Academy.
Yeah.
But when it was clear that Niski would be moving on, we had a long discussion about whether he would be ready to make the step up.
Yeah.
And Chachi had a big say in this decision. I mean, we signed Chachi as a top laner, and we were looking at our options, and Humanoid was our option we were looking at for mid. We were definitely going to sign for Academy.
Okay.
And he played duo with him. He spent a lot of time talking to him about his goals and that kind of thing. And he basically came back and said, "This guy is the real deal. He can play in LEC right now."
All right.
I have a question. And when Chachi was telling me that he's the oldest player in the LEC. They said on the broadcast Kasing was the second oldest. Yeah. And Chachi said to me that he's older than Kasing, which means that Chachi is the oldest. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is that when somebody of the caliber of Mr. Chachi is coming to you and saying that this guy's the real deal and he can really be a very strong player, and we've already had these sort of ideas, like Mac is thinking this, I'm thinking this, Duke is thinking this, and we get that sort of reaffirmation. Yeah, it was a brainer. And I'm glad that he's shown a strong start to the season. I mean, it's only 4 games so far, but he definitely has a very special talent, and hopefully he can continue to develop over the course of the season. So we're definitely looking forward to it.
Which reminds me that you like to pick all those younger players and transform them into very strong players, which speaks a lot about your experience as a coach, and that's where I want to head off next before we dive deep into the LEC 2019 Splyce rosters and also the Academy roster. I want to talk a bit about you because a lot of people might not be familiar with your career before. Would you like to summarize what you've done so far? Where did you work at? Which regions and stuff like that?
So basically, I don't come from a gaming background. I come from a sports coaching background. When I was at university, in sort of my spare time, I just did coaching qualifications. Right, like there's when you're going for what we call them coaching badges in the UK. There are certain things which you have to do. There are checkboxes you have to do, and when you've done all of these things, you then get it's a qualification for coaching football, FA badges. Okay, and these go up in level until you get your UEFA Pro license, which is what you need to coach Bayern Munich or Barcelona. So I've almost finished my B license, and like the Pro license is one stage up. But this is not something which I did in terms of for my for a career. This was something I did in my spare time because I really like coaching. I really like teaching. I've been teaching English since I was 14. I'm now 31. I've been coaching for fun for forever. And the way that I got involved in esports was I'd done some coaching in the university I went to in China and was nominated for an award. And at the sort of award dinner, ceremony dinner for this, I just happened to be sitting next to somebody who had a link to a Dota team called Catastrophic Rule Memory. Were later bought out by Invictus Gaming, but they were a pretty strong Dota team. And he just mentioned that maybe it would be a nice idea if I could come and maybe talk to the players and give them some advice. And this was this is like season 1 League of Legends.
2011, roundabout, yeah.
Yeah, this is a long time ago. But back in those days, even in China, so in China they had sort of a more sophisticated structure so everybody these days has sort of coaching staff, sports psychologists, and things like this. But back in in 2010, 2011, this sort of structure didn't really exist. I mean, it's worth saying that people only really started having coaches on stage. What was it, season 4?
5, actually.
Season 5?
Yeah, it was 2015. I remember this because it was when I started, actually.
Okay, but there were definitely people. I definitely remember when I was in China, they had coaches.
Yeah, they had. I think China had already earlier coaches, like not necessarily on stage, but they had coaches in Korea, obviously since the start. Like the Asia teams were ahead in this department.
Yeah, but I think it's worth saying that Korea is sort of like the progenitor of esports, right? Like, and I think a lot of the successful Chinese organizations, Catastrophic Rule Memory, World Elite, LGD, they copied a lot of things which the Korean organizations were doing, and this included bringing in outside expertise. Like I think that if I'd happened to be going to university in the UK, I would never have had this opportunity to get involved in esports. Maybe I never become a coach, in this alternative universe. But sort of I did a little bit of work whilst I was in China, sort of, I guess we would call it sort of sports psychologist work, maybe a little bit of analytical work. This was something you did after university.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a full-time profession. It was just maybe something you would do maybe once a week. Maybe there's an international tournament. Maybe you travel to Wuhan, or you travel to Guangzhou, or you travel to Hong Kong or something. Just you get your travel paid, but you get your own hotel and you just crash on a friend's floor or something like this. It was really, really basic things in those days.
The grassroots.
Well, yeah, but I remember it's really amazing when you think sort of 8 or 9 years ago, where basically you would see these tournaments in a shopping mall.
Yeah,
right? They would put these big curtains down, to cover the lights, and they would create like almost like a theater, right? And then you'd have the people on stage in front of
20 people.
Tens. It's a bit more than that. Like League was a bit more popular, and not as popular as Dota in those days. But you would just see them there, and it would just a makeshift sort of place in a shopping mall forecourt. And to see what it's become now in all of these stadiums, it's really, it really like I still can't believe it. Thinking back, how much League has developed and how much esports has developed in the last 8 years. It's really amazing. But anyway, so I spent a bit of time in China working for various teams. And at the end of season 4, I retired. Right, it wasn't something I was doing full time. It wasn't something I really wanted to devote time to. And I was coming back to the UK. My university, I worked for 2 years in China, and I studied for some time in China. Yeah. And my time in China came to an end. And I thought, okay, this is the end of my career in esports. I'm going to retire. I went to work for Hasbro, a little bit helping to design board games. And that was it. Then at the start of, I wrote a few articles here and there. Then at the start of season 6, at the start of season 6, Alex Abaxio, who was the head coach for INTZ, he read one of the articles I'd written on coaching.
Was that big Reddit thread that you made, right? You did like a 2 or 3 part series on Reddit talking about coaching.
I don't even know if it was that. He didn't tell me which, but anyway, I wrote some on Reddit and I wrote on some blogs and things. But he read something and he asked me if I would be interested in coming and working in Brazil. Now, for me personally, Brazil is a place which is very dear to my heart. I have like childhood friends who are from Brazil. I know a lot about Brazilian culture. A lot of my close university friends are from Brazil and things like this. So it was really the offer that Alex was making, would you come to Brazil, come and help leave a legacy, come and help improve Brazilian League of Legends, which was becoming much more professional in those days, which was really beginning to develop. That was really something that was very appealing. The original plan was to only go for 1 year. But eventually I ended up staying for 2 years. The second year was not quite as successful as the first year. Unfortunately, we managed to come first in both regular seasons, but lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And after that, after I left Brazil after 2 years, there were a lot of offers remaining, and Splyce made a very appealing offer to me, which was involved. You can train a young roster, but you can also build your coaching staff. You can help to train your coaching staff, and we're going to back you all the way. And this was something, because for me, it's not just about being able to train players. It's about making sure that the right support systems are around them. And this involves a lot of sort of training of coaches as well. So that's how I ended up on Splyce. And I'm still here. So we had a semi-successful season. It's a bit bittersweet, actually, because I felt that the INTZ team in 2017 and the Splyce team in 2018 could both have gone further than they did, but they kind of both fell at the last hurdle. I've talked in length about what happened at 2017 INTZ. I'm not going to go into too much more detail on this.
Oh man, you ruined all my questions.
But I have very, very bittersweet memories in Brazil, because that team during so we would scrim some of the major region teams when they came for MSI in Brazil that year, and the team was competitive. I mean, that was a team that could take games off major region teams on their right patch, but it was MSI was on a solo lane focus patch, and it then switched into Ardent Sensor meta, which was not the greatest for INTZ because it really restricted Jockster, and various things happened behind the scenes, which we won't go into detail. But I felt that team could have really performed at an international level. But if you're not good enough to go, you're not good enough to go, and we were not good enough. With Splyce was a bit bittersweet, because I think I'm the only coach in the world that has given Hjarnan Heimerdinger 2 games in a row. We were 2-1 up against G2 in the gauntlet, and I gave Heimerdinger twice in a row. But in fairness, we'd scrimmed G2 multiple times over the season, and Tankench and Jin. We won, so not G2, we'd scrimmed like lots and lots of different teams over the course of the season, because many teams in the EU played Heimerdinger. And every single time we picked Tankench Jin, we would always have done really, really well into it. So when we thought that they were going to pick Heimerdinger and we had the option to pick Tankench Jin, we thought we had a good draft. Maybe we should have just banned Heimerdinger. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that summarized pretty well, because I remember when I met you was when you were starting with INTZ. You were in Berlin for a boot camp between the seasons, and I happened to go there and visit the guys because I was a very good friend with Alex at the time. And in particular, I remember us having a 30 or 40 minutes conversation on how to build Esri on that patch, and we played all through all the scenarios. And for me, I remember this was such an impactful moment, because until this point, I haven't ever spoke with anyone about a champion and one specific item build at which time until this day. I was 1 year in my coaching career, and it was the first time I actually had a conversation with another coach that would nerd out about the specific tiny details of the game.
sort of resetting, making sure that you get the right reset.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh yeah, but why would you go this build and not this one? Yeah, I kind of understand this order, but I prefer this one because then I can do this rotation earlier. Oh yeah, I get it, but wouldn't it be better? Like, it was mind blowing to me at the time because what's interesting, like for the people that obviously don't know, I also worked in Brazil for a few years and in Latin America overall. And when Peter came to Brazil, it was a time where Brazilian coaching wasn't on a very, very high level. Like, we had a couple of coaches that had some experience, but the vast majority was like starting out. They never played the game professionally. Some even weren't on a very high level. And when Peter came into Brazil, like, to give the context, like, Brazil didn't know how to play a macro game to a certain extent. Like, Brazil's rotational game was comparatively very low, and like the input that Peter brought on various levels, and something that if you want to talk about, like how you also were willing to help anyone in the region, not specific like only INTZ, that made the region overall better and more competitive in a sense. Like, people looked up to you and still do today, actually, which I think is very, very kind and cute from the community to learn about the game. But like, that's one thing that I obviously want to give out there for context. But and was this like one of the reasons, like because you knew the people, you knew the region, that you decided to bring Tearwolf with to Splyce Academy?
Okay, so actually this is. Firstly, it's very kind of you to say that. I wouldn't say. I would say that I try to help as much as I can. So there, whenever somebody, even today, now I'm at Splyce, when somebody messages me, I always try to help, especially new coaches. I always try to give them guidelines for how to start out, because it's always really hard to get into this industry. And I think it was just. Simply whilst I was there, I just had more time, maybe because I couldn't speak Portuguese that well, or things like that. But I had more time where I was just willing to take the time out to help people learn a lot about the games. Sometimes people link to rival teams, but this was something which INTZ gave me permission to do. So because INTZ had always told me that they wanted to help Brazil as a region improve. And sometimes that meant giving a little bit of the competitive advantage up to other teams. That was a sacrifice that they were willing to make, and it's something that I appreciated. So it's something that I was only able to do because I was linked to INTZ. But I wouldn't say that Brazilian macro was awful. I mean, Alex had taught INTZ quite a few interesting things.
Alex did that, okay, Peter? Yeah, Alex.
I don't want to claim full credit for everything INTZ did, right? Like Alex created good foundations for the team to play good macro League of Legends. Now, I helped a lot to help the team improve to the next step, but this wasn't like just me and being the only one who was doing anything, right? It was very much a joint effort. So, but I do like to follow minor regions. Even in Season 5, when I retired from League, I watched Brazilian League of Legends. It's one of the reasons why I found... it's one of the reasons why I found Humanoid. It's one of the reasons because he was playing in Turkey, right? So we scouted him in Turkey. It's one of the reasons why we knew that Tearwolf was available. Interestingly, a lot of people have said, why not Revolta? Wasn't Revolta available? Actually, Revolta wasn't available. I'm pretty sure I can only guess, but I'm pretty sure that the transfer fee from Keed was pretty substantial, I would guess, for a player of Revolta's caliber, because people underrate Revolta a lot. But Tearwolf was a free agent. He was somebody that I'd helped out on KLG, somebody who looked really coachable, somebody who was a leader in game, a good shot caller, and this is why we ended up picking him up. So, okay. Talking about Tearwolf is locked outside of the door right now. He's just rung me on Skype. I must excuse myself for about 2 minutes, and I should be right back. I apologize. I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Isn't that fortunate when speaking about the devil? So guys, really quick shout out on Twitch here. If you have any questions or want to chat with us, make sure and join us on stream here. You can also just send in questions, but as well on our Discord channel. If you type in ! Discord, you should be getting a link. There's a Puppet Dojo channel where you obviously can just send your questions in case we miss it out here on the chat, but should be able to keep an eye out there to all the questions in chats. And
I think it's sorry about that. So
don't worry.
It's snowing in Berlin, and Timolf left his key outside. So I've gone to rescue him. But he is back and he is alive. So it's just like, as soon as you mentioned Timolf, my Skype went off. You have an incoming call from Timolf. Please respond as soon as possible. So.
Oh yeah. This is actually typical. Like, this is not the first time that I think he locked himself out at a gaming house. To be honest.
I couldn't possibly comment. But it was more. It was a case of, so Timolf was somebody who. Actually, I didn't. So I helped out KLG a little bit during Worlds. It didn't make that much difference, but when I was there, I didn't even realize Timolf would be available. At the end of the end, and then I saw that he was a free agent. I saw his post on Twitter. I was like, "This guy's a free agent. Interesting. I wonder if he'd be interested coming to Europe." And he was, and he definitely. Had like Timolf. The thing about Timolf is that he has sort of a winner's mentality. People say, "Oh, I'm willing to sacrifice for success." Timolf is the sort of person who he has sacrificed a lot for his teammates and for his success over his career. I'm sure there's stories out there, of him sleeping on the floor so that the new player can have a bed. There's stories about him sort of. Well, I'm sure that if you get him on your show, you can ask him some of.
I think I'll do that because he's also a longtime friend of mine. I don't know if you remember, but I actually coached him as well.
Oh, were you at Big Odds? I didn't
know. No, not at Big Odds. I coached him at Last Kings.
Last Kings.
Like right after I left KLG, I went to Last Kings to work with him and White Lotus. But the players kicked. God was his name back then, Tierwolf, before the season started, because some people didn't get along with his attitude, because like the thing, and that's why I like him so much, he would never take anything for granted, because like it doesn't matter how good we are, if we are winning by a large margin, he will always wanted to do better. Like, and he will like discuss about tiniest like all those tiny details like with me because he wanted to get better and wanted his team to get better, and people like didn't get along so much with his winning mentality that at the time. Things obviously changed, but he was already back then a very hardworking dude, to the point like he was like playing all-nighters sometimes, even though like we had game days on the next day. Like he was always a hardworking dude. And then he went obviously to the Big Gods after like a few tests, and well, I mean, he had at least let's say good training because he worked with Rafa. You probably know Rafa, which is also a very good coach in Brazil. And I was very excited to see him obviously be picked up by you, because oftentimes like my perception is that people overlook those talents in the wildcard regions because they kind of still label it as a wildcard region, right? I want to know, how was the perception when you just said like, hey, I want Tierwolf. He's from Chile, but I think he's pretty good and talented, and from working with him and helping them out, I know he's a hard-working dude. Like, how did people see him like coming from a wildcard region?
Well, I guess I'll just finish on Tierwolf first, because you mentioned Big Gods, but Big Gods was a disaster. They started the season -16 or something like this.
Well, yeah, but this was a management issue, like not players' fault in that sense.
But the thing is that this was the sort of the INTZ roster with Yang, Revolta, Tokers.
And was there at the prime, right?
Yeah, but we would scrim Big Gods almost every week. Big Gods were the only team that would consistently beat us in the early game. So whenever we wanted early game practice, we would play against them, but we had a rule where we were not allowed to play 1-3-1 against them because they had no idea how to play against 1-3-1, and we would just win the game for free. So we would play against them, and we would fight them in the early game, and we would contest. Sorry, 1 second, I need to sneeze. And basically, a big part of that was sort of how Tearwolf would path and how aggressively he would play.
Yeah.
It was Rakeen as well. He was
was the mid lane. Yes, exactly.
It was Rakeen and Tearwolf in particular really, really looked good on that team. And even when we played them on stage, they almost beat us.
Yeah.
I think of the teams in Brazil, they were the ones that came really close to taking games off us.
Oh, they were a strong team back then. I remember, they weren't the only ones that beat robots at the time. The team I was working with at the time, in scrims, only ones that besides NTZ would destroy us in scrims.
Yeah, but I think that there wasn't so much backlash from people in. So Splyce trusted our opinions, right? So there's a lot of very young players which we looked at, which I would love to talk about, but I can't because we may want to sign them in the future. but there were people like Humanoid, people like Tearwolf, and where individual coaches have said, look, you should sign this guy, he's really good, and Splyce trust us enough to make the right choice. And we will go out. Prime is another example. I'll support on the academy team. And Splyce will go out and sign them, and there's no questions, right? If I wanted to sign somebody tomorrow, they would go out and try to make it happen. Obviously, sometimes the finances don't work out, but if it's possible, we can do it. And generally, I would like to think as coaching staff, we're quite good at recognizing people. We don't spot everybody. We don't always make the right decision, but we're generally quite good at spotting people with potential. Mm-hmm. In Europe, I don't think it was that big a deal. People know, KLG boot camp in Europe, have boot camped in Europe before. And they played against several regional teams. They've looked pretty decent. And it's not like Tearwolf was going to come in and be the immediate starter, right? He's going to. I think he has a lot of potential, but the difference in the pace of the game between Latin America and Europe is large, right? And it will take him at least a split in order to be able to make the difference, which is why he's starting an academy right now. Hasn't visa issues means that he's not starting an academy right now, but when the visa issues are sorted, he'll start an academy. We're not going to put him in against G2 next week, right? I mean it would just not be fair for Tearwolf. He showed some pretty good performances in scrims, and he can definitely make the difference. Ironically, the most hatred I got that Splyce got for that was from Brazilians. Because a lot of Brazilians were saying, why didn't you sign Revolta? Why didn't you sign some Brazilian player? Well, why Tearwolf? Oh, Tearlau, haha, he was on that Big Gods team, which did really, really badly. And I actually thought that was a good thing that he was on that Big Gods team, because that Big Gods team was actually pretty good in the early game. Late game was not so good. I think that people in Brazil don't really understand how good this guy is.
Oh no, they don't. Because I remember very, very clearly. I got the shit talk I got because I said Tearwolf would be one of the best junglers in Brazil for that split. It's tremendous. I still hear today until this day that I said that.
Yeah, but anyway, it's. I think he's a good pickup, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see how well he does. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So that's all. That's already about Tearwolf. What else were we talking about? About other people who might.
Yeah. No. I didn't ask about that. But if you want to give us a spoiler or hint to any future.
Well, I mean, all I say is that Splyce are tracking people from emerging regions.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I can't talk about anyone from Vietnam except for Vietnam, because Vietnam is definitely not possible. Because we talked about, we were talking to, I think I can talk about this now, but before we knew Zugse was available, we were talking to Levi last year, and the situation with visas for Vietnamese people is it's not possible.
Unfortunately,
maybe another org can do it, but there's like people like SOFM, Zeros, Levi. There's a lot of very talented.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the regions to watch the next few years, right? Anyways, what's all about that you always want to work with younger players? Like, even in Brazil, like you prefer to rebuild NTZ with, let's say, names that weren't popular in Brazil, like names that were new and fresh, over like really sticking to what most of the teams do in Brazil. Like, we know this guy performs at a certain level, let's pick them up and make a super team kind of sense.
So back in the day, when Red Canids were in sort of CB Law in like 2016, okay, that was the Red Canids team that had Io, it had Sassy on it, and it had, I can't remember everybody in the roster. I'd have to go and check, but I remember Sassy was the one that everybody said was insane on that team.
NTZ Red, you mean?
Yeah, NTZ Red. Yeah. But that was after Jockster. Like, Jockster was playing top on that team, but it was after they had. It was after Jockster had stayed on 90Z and they just become Red Canids. Like, it was the first season of Red Canids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who it was on it. Oh, they had Dude.
It was Dude also.
I just wanted to check. So it was Dude, Yoda,
Sasir,
Sassy, Io, and
who was the jungler?
Yoda was jungler. Yoda was jungler.
Oh yeah, it was the jungle split. Sorry.
Who was the mid laner? I'm really embarrassed. I wonder if anybody in the chat can fill it in. I'm really embarrassed. I can't remember who it was.
Oh, yeah,
but they had. Who was it?
Bruiser or Edion?
It was Bruiser. No, it was Bruiser. I remember it was Bruiser. So that was it. That team. A lot of people talked about how good Yoda was on the team and how good Sassy was, but the person who really stood out to me was Io. And I know that he didn't really have that much. Like, a lot of people think Io is not very smart about the game, but he is. But I think that's not true. I just think he just didn't really have the right.
Well, people just think he's a one-trick pony, so.
Yeah, but well, two-trick because he played Zed and Riven, which are both excellent. What do you call them? Competitive champions. Actually, I let him play. I let him play Zed and Riven once each on stage. The Zed game went well. The Riven game did not go so well. Jockster didn't speak to me for 2 days after I let him pick Riven on stage. But anyway, the point is that I was really excited to work with Io. But I could understand why people were a bit more concerned about Turtle and about Envy.
Yeah.
Envy was somebody who basically we found from solo queue. Shinny was working on Genesis, and when it became INTZ Genesis, he performed extremely well, and we offered him the opportunity to come up to the main team, and he was happy to come up. For Turtle, when you have a roster with a lot of young players, people often underestimate how important like veteran leadership is.
Yeah.
And Turtle really provided that for the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Turtle isn't a player who. Turtle is one of those players a bit like Takeshi who always gets really, really close, but never quite makes it.
Yeah.
And I think that was. I think ITC gave him a platform and some good coaching and showed how far he can go. And I mean, I think he's doing a good job coaching CMB.
I think so too. Yeah. Like I think like people underrated like his knowledge in the game, but like even there, like you invest in those younger players, and you kind of did the same in Splyce, right? Like even the split with Northcare staying with Cersei, they're still fairly younger players compared to many other choices that you have even in your team.
Yeah, but I mean, our roster this year is extremely young. I mean, Xerxes is 19, Northcare is 18, I think. Humanoid is 18. Chachi's quite a veteran, but yeah, it's always good. It's always really motivating to work with young and hungry players, and you know it interesting working with Niski last year. It was interesting working with IO.
Yeah.
It was interesting working with Envy. So it's definitely been an interesting few years. So that's all I say.
So this is also what is most exciting for you as a coach, then, like to work with that younger player, like and really build him into a star. In that sense, like is that for you like the thing that you like the most about coaching?
For sure. I mean, there is like in the off season, my contract with Splyce expired, and I had options to look at other teams, and I was offered rosters with a lot of very experienced players. I can't talk about which teams these are specifically. But there were some very strong rosters that I had the opportunity to work with, and I chose to come back to Splyce because Splyce understand what it is that motivates me, and they understand that sort of my strength is in training younger players and helping them develop a lot. And it's not, I'm not necessarily the best coach on earth to have you put 5-star players and you say, babysit them and make sure they don't fight with each other. I mean, that's not that's not my skill set.
Well, I mean, I'm excited then because again, you're bringing a roster to the table that is very, very interesting. Shows a lot of potential.
We will see how much potential they show after. I think the best 2 teams in Europe right now, besides Splyce, are G2 and Schalke. And next weekend is Schalke on Friday and G2 on Saturday. So we will have a good idea of where Splyce stand
after this week.
Damn.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a bit about some games in a bit.
You have some questions in your chat.
Yeah. I want to go because I actually only see one here. I don't know if some more came up or in my chat is bugging again.
Why do you think Korea?
Yeah, my chat is bugging again. Unfortunately.
So there's 3 questions. The first question is, when is your birthday, Dr. Puppet?
My birthday. What? So everybody that typed in that question, please wait. Let me just refresh my chat because for some reason, like sometimes it bugs for me. I don't know why. Please send them again. There was like for me the first one was about the difference between Brazilian and Turkish teams because
that's actually a really interesting question. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this. So difference between CBLOL and Turkey. Okay, so I'll be direct. Splyce have trained against Turkish teams. We train against a Turkish team once every 2 weeks, at least. Sometimes once a week, but normally once every 2 weeks, because there's some very strong regional teams. The level in Turkey is high. This is because Turkish teams are reasonably wealthy and can afford to hire very strong coaching staff and a lot of the really hyped young talent from Europe and can afford Koreans. I mean, like GBM is playing in Turkey. Wolf is playing in Turkey. They have Frozen, and a lot of other Koreans. A lot of the top talent in Europe have come through Turkey. Caps, Humanoid, Abadage, who is at Schalke, Zutse, who was also at Dark Passage. And this is because they can afford good scouting networks and they're very closely linked to the EU West scene. A lot of the Turkish players play in EU West solo queue, they scrim against European teams, they have access to European sort of ideas on how to play the game, and they have access to strong scrim opposition. Okay, and this has helped Turkey This means that Turkey has a significant advantage over Brazil. I'm not going to say the Brazil scenario is poor. That's obviously not true. People can sign people like Nado as a coach, right? Who he will have had European offers, and he chose to come back to Brazil. But the difference between how much Turkish teams can offer, Turkish teams can offer more than some LEC teams can offer.
Sure.
And this is a significant financial advantage. And if you ask me where Turkish teams stand, bear in mind that the entire Turkish scene were shifted around last year. I mean, lots of different players are now playing for lots of different teams. Last year, if you'd asked me how strong Royal Bandits were in particular, I would have said Royal Bandits could have made playoffs in LEC. Mm-hmm. I don't think they could have won LEC, but I think they could have made playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think that right now, I would say the Turkish scene is a bit stronger because they have a lot of these advantages that they can.
Sure.
Where do Turkish teams get the finance compared to LEC teams? I don't know.
That's something.
Sponsorship. I would say sponsorship.
Yeah, investment there is also very high. Like the backers, like the owners of the team, have already also a lot of money to invest in the teams. Like since they are all almost like there are a few backed by football teams as well. So, but that's something that we can go in detail because we don't have the information either.
Exactly.
So, of course, people are asking you to come back to NTZ, Peter, but I think you're just gonna send your support and love to them for now.
I support IMTZ in their games in Brazil, but I love good League of Legends, and right now the team that are playing the best League of Legends in Brazil is Flamengo, for sure.
Yeah. We have a surprise actually for all the Brazilian League of Legends fans there, because we were talking about what to do on the show today, and we decided we're going to talk a bit about Uppercut against Flamengo later.
Yeah, because I was going to watch Flamengo, but so I've skipped out on watching my weekly dose on CBLOL because I normally catch up on emerging regions on Tuesday night when I'm setting my meta game. Expectations for the weekend.
Perfect. So now we can do every Tuesday night stream here. Like Alex and Peter go over CBLOL games. I think that's great.
so definitely we can. So by coming on this show, you're making me skip out on my preparation for tomorrow. So we'll watch some games together. From Flamengo.
All right.
Flamengo versus Uppercut, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So watch out. But basically it was good. So INTZ were very kind to invite me back for the ABCD, and it was good to see some of the guys again. I think that's a roster that has a lot of talent. I mean, they're still in playoffs, right? They're 3-3 right now.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see how things develop. But there's a lot of young talent on that roster. House can be one of the best mid laners in Brazil.
Yeah.
In a year or two. Cephas is there. He's pretty good. Lynx, and obviously a lot of the people who are playing on the main team. Mills actually. Mills is a really good shot caller. People don't realize this. They only look at mechanics, but Mills' shot calling is exceptionally good. But White Lotus is White Lotus. Like White Lotus is
I think it's very funny that INTZ now has 2 former players that I coached at the same time on 2 different teams. They have like now White Lotus and Boca Junior, which I coached both in 2016.
But I mean, like what White Lotus is a very talented player.
He's the best, right?
If you're talking about South American AD carries,
yeah.
I mean, him and BRTT are the 2.
Yeah, by far.
I won't say who's the best out of those 2, but they are.
Oh, they
are by far.
They have 2 total different qualities, in my opinion.
Exactly,
I don't want to compare them both because for me, what White Lotus lacks on right now, BRTT already has, and otherwise, right?
Mills is like, if Mills was a supporter or jungler, he could be a really good player. But he's an AD carry, and normally AD carries don't primary shot call. But he's really smart about the game. So
yeah. So before we dive into the games, there's obviously a question here by Leviathan. I've been studying since 2018 July, and I don't know how to start as a coach. What is your advice, Peter, for the young people wanting to be coaches?
So my advice for people who want to be coaches is, firstly, look for a way to make yourself stand out, right? And by this, I don't mean stand out as in, go on Twitter and insult people or things like this. What I mean is, why should you as a coach, why should a player listen to you, right? And I'm going to be direct, right? I haven't played much League for a long time. I'm not a very talented League of Legends player, but
that makes 2 of us.
But the thing that I offer is I offer a very good understanding of particular lane matchups. I have a very good understanding of jungle, and I have a good understanding of mid-game rotations and tempo and initiative. And this is something that I found myself by studying repeatedly how different teams handle these kinds of things. Okay, so back in season 1, season 2, I was doing a little bit of work on what we would call, sports psychologist work, and I wanted to learn a lot more about the game. So what I did was I studied in depth how teams work and how teams mentally thought about the game, and then compared how they would apply these ideas to different opponents, right? So in a modern context, you could look at a team like Griffin, and you could compare what Griffin's philosophy of the game is, or specifically Tarzan, their juggler, and compare how they would use this against a team like SKT, how they would use this against a team like Jin'e, and spot the differences and see how they're adapting their strategy, and in a sense become sort of the person who understands Griffin more than anybody else in the world, and then use these tools that you've used to study other teams like Invictus Gaming, like World Elite, and see how they approach the game. So pick an area of specialization for your own knowledge about the game, because you are not, as a coach, you are not going to be better than somebody who is rank 1 on the ladder at League of Legends. You cannot know everything that they can know better, but you can know one thing better than they can, or you can know 10 things better than they can. But you're not going to teach Onawanne how to play Rumble better. Maybe you can coach him how to play Swain better or something, but you are never going to coach him how to play Rumble better, and it doesn't matter how much you study the game, but maybe you can coach him how to rotate better or things like this. The second thing is to improve yourself as a coach. Okay, so this is something which I think there's a lot of people in the League community who know a lot about League, but not a lot about coaching. Yeah. And the best way to do this is look for volunteer opportunities. Maybe you could volunteer to help your local football team. Do some coaching there. Maybe you can do a course, a coaching course or coaching qualification for like a month. Maybe you can, do some teaching. This is normally language teaching is the easiest thing to do. For me, it's easy because, I do English language teaching, but I guess in Brazil, people could do Portuguese language teaching or something like this. And think about how you approach teaching people of different skill sets, and that will give you better experience in coaching in League. Third thing that I would give advice is look to find ways to show your talent off to an individual team. So there's so many times when I interview somebody for a coaching position, and I go and ask them what they think they could add to Splyce or what they think they can contribute to Splyce, and I get a generic answer, right? You are never going to stand out to a team if you just bring a generic answer to an interview, right? I feel that some of the people I interviewed for coaching positions, they're interviewing for a coaching position at Splyce, but they've never watched a game of Splyce play League of Legends. Prepare coaching positions in League of Legends are coaching positions, are high competition positions, like you would get, if you were applying to Apple or you were applying to Google or something like this, right? You have 50 people competing for your job. Yeah. What can you do to make yourself stand out from those people? Maybe it's doing content. Maybe it's writing articles for the League of Legends website. Maybe it's, you've watched every single Splyce game 50 times, right? And you can tell me what happened on the 2nd of, August 2016, in like I don't know what happened on the 2nd of August in 2016. Maybe somebody can tell me, right? But show me a way why you deserve to have that position more than the 50 other people who applied. And I think if people think about how they want to sell themselves, about improving their coaching and finding ways to specialize their game knowledge, this is the best advice I can find for people starting out. So.
Yeah, I can only agree to that. I'm gonna link later an article to the show notes that I wrote on a few things that can make you start as an esports coach, because there are a few things that everybody can start doing at any time. I'm gonna put it in the chat if you're all starting out there. I hope it works because my chat is bugging. I think again. Alright, I'm putting it on Discord, so everybody on Discord can check it out there. I'm so sorry. But, yeah.
Why Tesso 2? Is there a Brazilian player you can feel who can play well in Europe? Yes. Okay, next question.
Well, we should... Okay, maybe that's an interesting question, because I oftentimes I talk with you, and also I talked a lot with Hussein last year about how the coaching staffs changed last year, and how like having a lot of good coaches in the region made the region overall better, right? And one question here from Reincarnation of Juju is: any future coaches you recommend watching? Keep watching what they do.
How that's a difficult question, because it's really difficult to see what's going on behind the scenes at a team, right? So you can't really learn about how they do. Does Brazil still have open mics for teams?
Yeah, they do. They still do. It's very, very interesting when Nelson speaks, because we never understand a thing.
I mean, there's a lot of LMS coaching talent in Brazil this year. Like Gray's on Flamengo, Tabe's on. I mean, obviously Tabe played in China, but he coached in LMS. Yeah. So there's a lot of people who coach in LMS. Nelson as well. 3 LMS coaches in Brazil. But anyway, so it's really hard. Honestly, future coaches I recommend watching. Nothing in esports. Go and read something about how Scolari coaches in football.
Yeah.
Go and read something about how Marco Bielsa. Marco Bielsa is my favorite. My favorite.
So you learned by the Scolari playbook. That's interesting.
Not Marco Bielsa, Marcelo Bielsa. But but I think Scolari, when I started, I think I did my internship at a team that Scolari was coaching. But anyway, it was Lippi. Because there was Shanghai Shenhua were my local team. So I did part of my coaching badge thing at Shanghai Shenhua. But anyway, so side thing. So look at people outside of League of Legends, because you have 150 years worth of documentation about coaching football, and you have 3 years for League, 4 years.
Yeah, like a bit more maybe, but it's not enough, to be honest.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah, like it's not comparable. I'm putting also an interview I did with Taylor at the Exponential Coach, that we talked a little bit about this.
Taylor's really.
Yeah, like we were talking about what he used, obviously, like what was he looking at when he started coaching, and he was obviously a poker coach before, but one thing that he recommended, and was one of the things that also helped me a lot when I was coaching, was to read in general about leadership. And I mean, like taking biographies of people that were successful at anything they did right, or anything like they do. Like for me, for example, I read the Steve Jobs biography, and it's like why a guy that actually was good at talking and thinking was at such a high position of such a tech company, and how he found it, even though like he was never the guy doing the necessary part, like building the computer itself. So this was like if you find something that you are interested in, read the biography of that person, because I think like this can help more than necessarily only coaching techniques. Because like people have different approaches, and like you can obviously always have the basics and like say the mechanics of coaching, but what you're gonna get like the best out of it is like understanding from where people were able like to learn or apply that from my own experience. I linked the Discord where I put the links down for anyone interested. Before let's jump into some games. But did you want to still talk about a little bit about the Splyce Origin game, or do we want to jump into Uppercut Flamengo?
Let's watch Uppercut Flamengo. Like I could talk about Splyce Origin, but I don't really want to leak too many of our strategies for this.
That's totally understandable. I think we are all sad, but we totally understand that.
I will say that I was pretty happy with how we played in that game. It was one of the best Splyce performances I think I've seen since we joined Splyce, and this is from a roster which is 2 weeks old. So,
well, it's going well, I'd say. Huh?
Oh, so this is on Sync Video, right?
Yeah, it's on Sync Video. Are you still in there? The link's the same. You should have it on Discord. I just started there. I I'm just postponing it to draft because like one of the questions that people asked.
I accidentally pressed shared screen. Cancel.
Okay, wait. Are you? Is it working for you?
Yeah, I accidentally clicked something, so I'm just gonna have to. Okay, yeah, because I just realized it's on my other computer. It's open on my other computer.
Yeah, well.
Okay, give me a second.
No worries, we have time, people. If you, Peter, how will you feel after Flamengo defeats Splyce at the MSL semifinals? Holy shit!
I can guarantee what will happen is if we play against Flamengo, we will give BRTT Draven and we will camp them. We will camp him quite a lot. He can play Draven against 5 people blocked for the entire game.
Let me know when you are ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, all right. So, since someone asked actually about drafting, if you have any tips, let's use this as an example, like and really discuss drafting, and how to maybe approach it. Like, except, wait, is it syncing now? Like, all right, wait. I'm gonna kick the other Peter there.
Okay, so kick me. So yeah. I'm the well-to-do dwarf pocket.
Oh, you're a dwarf now. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm not Peter. Peter's the other computer. Pick that guy. Yeah, it's a fake Peter.
So Peter too. So let's talk about drafting. Okay, so they locked in the draft. Let's talk about how approach and preparation. Maybe like to give a little bit of context. I really want to use the opportunity that we can actually create some very educational content here, and talk about drafting because like I'm gonna set it off. My approach was right when going to draft. Obviously, prioritize patch and strengths of the team. Yep. And then start, okay, what do we need to bet against the other team so we can execute our strengths? Or let's say block their strengths.
Since we're doing something educational, I think the thing to start with actually is to say that coaches are not idiots, right? Like, I think that fans often have this idea that, you know, if something weird happens in a draft and it doesn't work out, or like you give up multiple power picks, that the coach who's doing this draft is an idiot. Now, sometimes you can make a justification, right? Like if the Splyce head coach gives Shannon Heimerdinger 2 games in a row when he needs to win 1 game to go to Worlds, maybe you could say that is a coaching idiot. But, you know, when a coach leaves up a power pick, or when they trade power picks, or when they're always thinking something. Maybe the thought isn't right, you know, but maybe it's a strength of one of their players. Maybe, you know, they leave up Akali, but they can't play Akali, right? But they expect the other team to ban it, and the other team doesn't ban it, and then they can't play it themselves. Maybe they think Akali is not very good because they've been winning against Akali all the time in scrims, right? Maybe they've got a top secret counter pick that they think. Or maybe, you know, they think that the champion is overrated, right?
Yeah.
And they're right. But a coach isn't just flying, like if they're leaving up a power pick, such as in this draft here, where we see Urgot being left up and Galio being left up.
Yeah.
They're not avoiding picking Galio because they don't understand that Galio is strong, right? At least in 99% of cases, right? Yeah. It's because they have a specific plan in store. So in this draft, for instance, we see the bans, okay? So
we have Camille, Lissandra, Irelia.
Yep. So these are all. So this is 9.1, right? So I can go into detail on 9.1. Okay. So this is 9.1. So it's before the Aatrox nerfs. It's before the Irelia nerfs. It's before. So basically here, it's before the Galio nerfs, right? So this is so right now the power picks on this patch were things like Lucian, things like Aatrox, Irelia, Galio, and Lissandra, right? And what the teams have chosen to do is trade Urgot for Galio.
Which is totally fair.
It's totally fair. Also, there's a danger in picking Galio first pick on blue side because Europe showed Corki and Vayne, I think, into it.
Yeah.
So if the 2 picks are left open, you choose to go Urgot because you can flex the Urgot pick and you can play safely against it. Flamengo then go and pick Galio because they don't want to give up the power pick, so they make the trade, right?
Sure.
And now it's simply a case of what what do you want to draft in this sort of situation? Now, I think it's worth saying that there's 4 ways to talk about compositions in League, right? You have team fight focused compositions versus split focused compositions, so like split push focused compositions, and you have proactive compositions versus reactive compositions. Right?
Yes.
So if you think about this, you have a proactive team fight composition. We call that an engaged composition. You have a reactive team fight composition. That's a disengaged composition. It's something like a poke, like a Zoe Ezreal comp, or it's something like a protect the hypercarry comp, where you have a range advantage.
Yes.
You can have a proactive split composition, which we call a pick composition, or you can have a reactive split composition, which is what we call an isolation or split push, 4-1 composition, right?
Yes.
And generally, disengage beats engage beats split beats disengage, and pick is even against all 3. Okay? So if we look at it through this kind of a lens, when you've got a Galio, what you're looking at with your Galio is you have a champion which is really good in engaged compositions, really good in disengaged compositions, and can defend against split, right? It's not insane against split, but basically against a team that wants to, when you're trying to beat Galio, it's very difficult to pick Galio to play against Galio if you don't have a good counter engage. Okay, so a Galio on the other team naturally forces you towards playing more sort of disengage, because Galio, if you have a really strong disengage composition, Galio doesn't do that much. And also, if you can split the map better than him, you can also exploit that sort of strength. But if you're playing an engage composition into Galio, it's not going to work out well. And this is what you see here from Uppercut, right? They see the Galio, so they know, okay, engage composition, Flamengo are going to play engage composition.
Yeah.
They then say, okay, so that means we want to play disengage, because disengage beats engage. And we want to make sure that our disengage, disengage loses the split, so we want to have champions which are good against split pushing, but also give us good disengage strength, right? So this is why you see Corki, this is why you see Town Kench, this is why you see Varus. It's a very smart composition, right? They have good peel with Urgot and Lee Sin, and they're using their poke and range advantage to punish the Galio pit, which naturally wants to be played in an engaged composition. Okay. On the side of Flamengo, what we see here is we see a very basic engage composition, right? You have Alistair and Poppy that both want to go in very hard. You have Kai'Sa, which is really strong burst follow-up on a primary engage. You have Galio, which is good follow-up. And then you have the jungle pick. And this jungle pick here, what do you think about Cousins on this match before I go into?
From what I've seen, he was like one of the most popular in solo queue, at least. Like, he was really being one of the flavor of the months because he can go really aggressive. Like, since Galio was a high priority pick in mid and Camille was constantly banned, he was like obviously the second option to go for, or let's say one of the after Camille options to go for when it comes to aggressive jungling. And he had decent matchups against the less aggressive, or let's say also aggressive junglers in the patch. With the synergy, I feel it works somehow in the early game. Like, it puts on the pressure they might want, but in thinking about the late game aspect of the game, he'll obviously not do too much work if he can constantly pressure the Varus in the setup. Like, for me, the only thing that he will do in this game is set up the early game pressure and then later constantly put pressure on the Varus, so he's not in a comfortable position to play.
Mm-hmm. But what do you think the role of this Varus is supposed to be in this composition?
Just stay in the backline, ult, use Q to farm, stay alive, output as much damage.
So I don't mean I mean the Kazakhs.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, for me it's set up the early game, and then pressure Varus, not let Uppercut be in a comfortable position to set up their poke comp, or not let them get comfortable with their playstyle.
How would you feel about something like Sinjao or Jarvan or something like this?
They would work as well. They would work as well, but I think they won't burst as high in damage. I think maybe Sing Zhao would be the other choice to go here for. He would be a more well-rounded. But I think Flamengo was more focusing on snowballing early on then. Okay. In my opinion. Even though I would definitely prefer the Xin Zhao here, I can see the Kazakhs why they prefer the Kazakhs here.
Okay, so it's basically you have just follow-up burst, basically. It's like it could be a Victor or something like this.
Definitely.
Can't play Victor in the draft. Okay, makes sense. But this is why. So I think that if you ask me which draft I prefer, I personally would prefer the uppercut draft.
Same, totally.
But I don't think that Flamengo's draft is bad by any means. Like the Kazakhs is a bit odd in the draft, but if it's mainly there to control the early game, and to provide an outlet for Galio in the late game, it's not awful, but it just looks a bit odd compared to something
there would be let's call it safer choices, to be honest. Easier choices, because when comparing those two compositions on paper, uppercuts one is easier to execute. And this is one of the things that people disregard when coaches do the drafts with the teams. You always tend to prefer what feels more natural and feel easier for the team to execute, right? You want to avoid any risks from a draft perspective coming to a game as important as this one.
Yeah, and I also think it's worth saying that Shrimp is a very good Kazakhs, right?
Yeah.
They say that there's a difference between giving Shrimp Kazakhs and giving
Leche's Kazakhs.
I'm not going to call out any names. Between giving Shrimp Kazakhs and giving somebody else Kazakhs. Some nameless person who we will not possibly mention. Yeah.
Are you mentoring one of your ex-players?
I'm not. I don't know what you're referring to.
All right.
But definitely, comfort is extremely important, and it's the same reason why Yankos is good on Karthus, but it's maybe you shouldn't try this at home. For everybody, right? Some people are good Karthus players, and some people are not. So it's the same sort of. Okay, so let's go
into the game.
So I press. We say 3, 2, 1, and we both press play.
No. I control for us both, I think. Are you not in the sync video?
I'm in the sync video. Okay.
Yes.
Play.
So it should work just fine.
Tell me when you press play, because for me it hasn't loaded. I'm actually watching your stream to see the.
Oh really? Okay. Yeah. So then I'm gonna press. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna count down and press play. Then on 3 you press 1, 2, 3. Okay, wait.
It paused. Okay.
Yeah, well. All right. So is it working for you now?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, perfect.
So it's now 32 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So let's talk about early game. So generally you want to look at wave prior. So uppercut's composition gets prior in all 3 lanes early. So they should be looking to push early and transfer their mid-prio to either invade enemy jungle to get deep vision, or to transfer to one of the side lanes to end up diving either top or bot. You can do either. You can go either side. Flamengo want to stall the game out until they want to scale. They have a very good amount of wave clear with Galio to defend against any pushes. But the key thing is that they have to survive until Galio 6, because they cannot match Corki rotation until Galio has 6. Okay, so this is the key. This is the key thing here. It's telling that Corki decided to go TP instead of cleanse, which means that it's possible to play. It means that it's vulnerable to Flamengo ganks early on, but which means that Lee Sin has to play through mid. Is forced to play through mid in the early game for fear that Flamengo can camp mid and stop Eddie from being able to get any kind of a push.
Yeah. So seeing that both start topside, do you think any of the teams are going for any kind of early pressure on bot lane? Since technically, you could try to get a flash early on from Varus, so you kill the pressure off.
Sure. But generally Kha'Zix likes to start on red buff side.
Yeah.
Because it lets him do a full
clear.
Full 3 count clear, right? Ending with procs and then into a reset into coming out of base. The problem is that Kha'Zix cannot contest river, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't actually get to choose where the pace of the game goes, right? It's up to Lee Sin has full lane priority, and it's about Lee Sin taking advantage of his lane priority in order to be able to do something. I don't think he should have chosen to show mid lane here, because he's given Kha'Zix a lot of information right now. So Kha'Zix right now can either be on blue buff or he can have done a full side clear. It's not unreasonable to expect him to do full clear topside. So that's what happened, and that's why you see Lee Sin contesting Scuttle. But also, this is a free Scuttle to contest. This is also. Okay, we're talking about so Kha'Zix can't contest Lee Sin on Scuttle, which means that Lee Sin can get bot side Scuttle control and. Basically, it's going to be they can pressure towards bot side here and start to take platings here because normally here, if you're Alistair Kaiser, you can actually win the all-in against Varus Tahm-Kench, right? Yeah. Like you can engage with Tahm-Kench and you can actually outburst the Varus. The problem is that with no knowledge of where the enemy jungler is and with a jungler that loses the early 3v3, it's too dangerous to do this, right? So they just have to farm up as best as they can. So BRTT is actually doing a pretty good job. He's only like 3 CS down. But here, Uppercut have the option to come and freeze the wave off the bounce, right? And they've chosen to push this wave in, and you notice they're stacking the wave now, which means that now they're going to stack this wave into the next wave, and now Lee Sin is going to be in a position where he can gank. Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be pretty successful, actually. The first TP, which is
I don't agree with this. I got TP.
No. They should have just be happy with the TP from Rubo there.
Yeah, if they got the Poppy TP and managed to get out, Urgot would be 20 CS ahead now. 18 CS. And the game Poppy's would be completely over. I really disagree. So because Lee Sin showed bot, Shrimp is really quick to punish. Okay, so he knows that. So he saw how much CS Lee Sin had. So when Lee Sin went for Scuttle, right?
Yeah.
So he knows that Lee Sin did 2 camps topside because he knows that Lee Sin took Scuttle and he took blue, right?
Yeah.
And he took Romp. Okay, Scuttle and blue. So he had 8 CS or he had 12 CS with Romp. I can't remember. Because there was a ward in the bot side river bush, so he countered the CS. Because remember, it's
I'm gonna even show it on stream so people can understand that. So, but continue talking.
So
I'm gonna go back
here,
2 minutes.
So there we go. So this is exactly the case. So Lee Sin here is seen on this crap here with 8 CS when he's taken
top Scuttle.
Right, which means that now he has 12 CS, right? So Kha'Zix knows that Lee Sin didn't complete his topside camps. Okay, I don't know if he was seen on this ward here.
No, he wasn't, but he will show up in mid lane with that.
But he's going to be shown on mid lane. So here, Shrimp, because he's an exceptionally strong jungler, is immediately thinking, wow, okay, this guy didn't do a full side clear, so maybe I'm going to be able to get a camp off him later if he makes a big buff. Okay, this is definitely what Shrimp is thinking right now. It doesn't mean that, but he sees an opportunity. Oh, and he's definitely seen on this web board, right?
Yeah.
So right now, Shrimp is definitely going to see this. Okay, but he's still playing. But LeChase is still playing towards bot side because generally he wants to cover his Varus, and this wave here is going to reverse now. And actually, they can afford to harass. Like this Alistair here is really disrespecting. Lucy is really disrespecting. He should, like, if this was Uzi, Lucy would have taken like 8 auto attacks by now. But they let him stand a little bit back. Basically, when you've got Tahm-Kench and Varus, you can just auto, like, Alistair shouldn't be allowed to step up like that. It's really disrespectful.
It could be more punished than it was already.
It could be more punished. I mean, it's only 8 auto attacks, right? But it's still like a significant.
It's early game auto attacks, so it hurts.
Okay, so now wave reversals. Okay, so now this is something which Uppercut are very good at. They're very good at stacking bot wave into tower dive, right?
Yeah.
So now they have a choice of whether they want to fast push this wave or whether they want to stack it. But now they're choosing to stack it, and right now BRTT and Lucy, because they play pretty disrespectful, are playing up the lane, right? So they play up the lane right now. And you look immediately at what Shrimp is doing on the top side. Like, forget this bot side thing that we're talking about.
Look at the
Shrimp
map.
Sees, Shrimp sees that he can now invade on the top side. He takes that ward, which is a mistake. And
he shows that he's going there. So he's giving any information that Uppercut now can punish him again. Like, while he's trying to punish now, he gives the opportunity to then punish back.
Yeah, And this is why having priority, like this is why you should not draft 3 losing lanes and losing jungle, right?
Yeah.
Like, and this is obviously a communication issue here between Goku and Shrimp. Maybe does Goku speak Korean?
I think he speaks a bit, to be honest.
Okay. So then Goku should have been telling him to back off right now because he doesn't have priority. But anyway, it's interesting that they recognize that Shrimp would come and invade, and they punished and they got a flash. But key thing you'll notice is they choose to stack the wave bot with Lee Sin going jungle there. You notice that that Shrimp is punishing the first clear by tracking enemy CS.
Yeah.
And you'll notice that here both top laners TP bot, which is a mistake. That should never happen.
Well, this is something that is not supposed to happen in that matchup.
that should not happen. Like, I mean, that's just greedy, right? Like, you've seen the Galio go back to base, like, just trade your TPs. It's so greedy. It's so greedy to allow that. That's not really acceptable. If one of my players did that, I would be really, really mad.
I think he heard a few things for that. Like,
but I mean, like, so let's go through what Corki did this game, okay? So Corki isn't going to split push in the late game, right? Because he does against Kha'Zix Galio. That's really dangerous for Corki to do, right? So he went TP as a disrespect TP because you should be going cleanse in this matchup, okay? If you're not planning to split push late game and you're against like
you go cleanse,
you go cleanse, right? So he chose to go TP, which is in a sense disrespectful. He then allowed Galio to TP
punish.
Back to go back to base and come back out without trading his TP himself. And then he gives up first blood.
He gave a free kill to someone that he should be like just straight out bullying in this lane.
But he is straight up bullying him, right? Like let's not. I mean, he's bullying him, right? He's up.
Yeah, I mean, but now the goal difference doesn't even matter technically because
the goal difference doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you've chosen to go TP, you just trade your first TP.
No reason to risk it, yeah.
Exactly, no reason to risk it. So next thing, we see again, stacking of the wave. But here, do you notice what Galio is doing, right? This is something Flamengo do really well with their mid lane.
Yeah, already they get putting the pressure, yeah.
But he's not completing his rotation, right? He is.
Just going MIA, so people on bot has to back off.
So he gets a mid push, and here, if Galio just pushes that wave into tower and does nothing, uppercut gets a tower plating, right?
Yeah.
But because he disappears, they have to respect him, and they don't end up taking the tower plate, right?
And
so he just
Flamengo can push back safely.
Yeah, Flamengo can push back safely in a matchup which they should never be able to get priority on the wave. Okay. So that should.
Oh, that was a smart use of the minion, the materializer there. So now they can freeze now. It's not pushing hard on the turret. They can stack the next wave until like the next time this Sin comes bot.
Yep, for sure. The problem that they have now though is because Corki died early and doesn't have cleanse. Flamengo are able to use their play from earlier to reverse the wave and get this Drake. This Drake doesn't really matter, but because it's a mountain Drake early, but
it's still free Drake for a team that should not have a Drake at all.
Should not have a Drake, exactly. And here we see Lee Sin coming out through bot. Now here you'll notice again something Uppercut do very well. They stack the wave slowly, and now they're going to start reversing the wave at the same time as Lee Sin comes towards bot. This is a play you'll see them do repeatedly. It's a play which they do very effectively, and it's a play which shows that this is a game plan that they have come into a game, and it's something that they've trained well in scripts. So
yeah,
we're now going to see they're going to do it at the same time. I would guess Lee Sin is coming towards bot. Oh, he's going towards mid first to catch. Oh, he is going towards bot.
Yeah, he was just taking the vision. Yeah.
So they're stacking bot wave. So they stack bot wave now, and Lee Sin is bot at the time when he's not bot. He's taking cogs. So I disagree with this here. I think they should have
taken vision control there, right?
Yep, because they've got Varus. Varus is 6 now, right?
Yep, they have pressure.
So Lee Sin shouldn't have taken that count. Lee Sin should have been bot as soon as Varus hit 6. So this is one wave too late.
So they're trying to go for a dive they shouldn't. No,
I mean this is fine, but they're just too late, right? Like they should have taken. he should have taken Krugs after they go for this dive, right?
Yeah.
Because here, they easily get 2 tower platings for this. And here, do they even get 1 tower? Let me have a look at the tower. Alistair's on top. They get 1 tower plating, right? Yeah, they got 1 tower.
1.
But that should have been an easy 2 tower plating. And if you want to do because the wave is already stacking, right?
Yeah.
So Lee Sin did an extra camp, so the wave wasn't protected. And if they wanted to make a play with Corki, they should have pushed. They should have. He should have gone mid earlier, got the push with Corki. Corki resets, takes his package, and comes straight out to base with package towards top.
Yeah.
This means your Urgot is going to get a play used against him topside, but it's different. Because if you know that you're about to make a play bot, then you don't. You play aggressive with Urgot on the side. But there they greeded for an extra camp, so they were late on the way. So that was a mistake. Okay, so next sequence.
Now they're now they're kind of forced to change up the game. Like, I think that's a very interesting idea, because let's go back at 10 seconds. They didn't get the bot thing going for them, and now they just decided to lane swap, kind of. Like, they're just sending the bot lane topside.
Yep.
And trying to cheese out the play.
Well, they're trying to do this to get Herald, right?
I guess so. Like, this would be my guess, at least.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand this because they're specifically doing it for Herald, but I mean, if this was me, I would want Tahm Kench to ult behind.
Yeah, and keep Varus bot lane, actually.
No, I mean, you said you should send Tahm Kench and Varus together, because Varus can't push him 1v2. And he doesn't have good wave clear because he's not going lethality. He's going.
So you would prefer flank play, so that they set up the wave so they can flank gain from behind with the Tahm Kench ult.
Yeah, exactly.
So right here, if the wave would be where Varus is, and then they would find a place behind where they can channel the ult.
Exactly. But I mean, I understand why they do this play. It's fine. But basically, Uppercut have had 2 stacked waves bot, and they've been late on both of them.
Yeah.
So they have here they've only taken 1 plate bot. By now they should have taken. If this was an LEC team, they would have taken. If you give up mid priority, winning jungle and winning bot lane against an LEC team, that tower has at most 1 plate left. They'll take it. And people ask, what is the difference between Brazil and Europe? And that's the difference, right? It's about maximizing your minor advantages. It's not that the idea is good, right? What Uppercut did strategically is good, but the execution is bad. The execution was extremely they were just slow.
This was very sloppy as well.
This was pretty sloppy. Here you'll see Urgot. Fix is really sacrificing himself for his team. He matched the TP earlier.
Yeah.
If you're Urgot there, you don't match the TP. Use your TP later, on the first swap. And here, you don't come to mid, right? The team
you just keep pushing.
Just keep pushing. Take some tower platings. So I think Fix should be about 1,000 gold ahead right now.
But he isn't. Yeah.
But I mean, all this tells you is that he's not the main shot caller on the team, right? So I would guess LeChasers or any.
Yeah. LeChase and damage. LeChase and damage.
Okay. So, but I mean, here, Fix is basically being the top lane dog of the team and sacrificing for the greater good. I mean, he is Urgot, but Urgot can do something. If you have a top lane, technically, sacrifice like this, they would be really sad.
Technically speaking, they had 3 opportunities now to get slight advantages to get their game going. They misplay them. Technically,
but here they use the Tahm Kench here for tempo, right? So this is not bad. So they use Tahm Kench for tempo. This means that now they're going to
get it back.
Away, right?
Yeah.
So now this is good. They have tempo. They stack 2 waves. They push them into tower, and this means that when Drake spawns, they can. The bot lane, Uppercut's bot lane is here in time to go and be on the dragon first, right? Here, they're on the dragon, right?
Of course. What the? Oh god.
Oh god.
Wow.
Okay, so let's break down what happened there, right?
Oh boy.
This play here with Tahm Kench is good, right? Like, I mean, this is good. What Uppercut just did now is really good, right?
Getting the tempo, using advantage to get in your lane.
Advantage, right? So what we mean by tempo here is like they're first on the wave, right? So they get to push the wave out, right? They have 2 waves here that they can stack together, right?
And pressure on the lane. So
pressure on bot, right?
So they can freely choose now what to do.
Yeah, and they've timed their use of Tahm Kench ult so that they're pushing the wave so that Kai'Sa is responding to this wave when Dragon is spawning, right? So either Kai'Sa gives up 2 waves or they get a numbers advantage on Drake. Okay, so this is good. Again, stacking the wave, having jungler come into the stack wave, all of this strategic play is good, right? From Africa. I have no problem with it.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so they're first in the river.
Korg is also in time to respond to wave so they can have relieve the Galio pressure as well. Yep. So, all fine so far.
This is good. Like, everything up to this point has been good, right? Here, in fact, if Urgot uses barrier right now, he can even get TP, right?
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.
So now all you have to do is stop them getting into the river. Like, stop Alistair getting into the river.
So how do you do that?
You just stand where Tahm Kench is now.
And not go forward.
Yeah, and not go forward. There's no reason for you to go forwards right now. The end. Let's play. Oh, dear.
That hurt.
That was a bit painful. So unfortunately they gave up Dragon for this. But you can see, like, Uppercut are what, 5-1 in CP-LOL?
Yeah, they only lost this game, yeah.
Yeah, okay, but you can see what Uppercut are doing that is good, right? Like, here they have the pushing lane, so they have to, it's on them to get the macro advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've done generally a good job, right? They stacked the wave bot, they made sure they're in time for the stack wave.
At least they're now doing the top lane play, right? Like, fit state, at least.
Yeah, and this is good, right? They're just playing a bit too respectful for Flamengo against Flamengo. Sorry, just need to cough.
Yeah, I mean, like, we have to, like, if there's a team currently in Brazil that is good at punishing those mistakes, is Flamengo. Like, they are the ones like managing to maximize the advantages they get from those like mistakes with Shrimp. Like, now getting also Jaron came stolen right after this play. Like, this is something like that Shrimp is doing very well, because this was one of the things we talked about in draft, about the Kha'Zix Brick, right? Because this enabled him to get the red buff now. With Xin Zhao, he would have been able to do that, but maybe other junglers not as easy as he did right there.
But I mean, the key thing here is that Fix should be telling his team, look, Poppy's not on the wave top, right?
Yeah.
And right now, what's happening is you're denying 2 ways into bot tower, and you're denying 2 ways into top tower, right?
Yeah.
And that is more than a kill's worth of gold. It's like nearly 2 kills worth of gold, right?
Yeah.
So they're winning on the map right now, and they just need to be patient. It's that simple, right? They just need to be patient in deciding what they're going to do on the next play. And they pull the trigger too early.
And but now they also lost the advantage on vision. That's also the important part.
But now they had an opportunity here to move, and this is the problem. Like, if you were asking me, if I was playing against Uppercut tomorrow, what would I do? This is what I would punish, because here you can see Fix is not stacking the wave top. Like, the Uppercut bot lane is very good at stacking the wave, but right now
it's just pushing recklessly.
Yeah. And he could have stacked 2 waves, and then they could have used Corki package to go top.
Yeah,
but they chose not to. Right, so I feel like he's being left a bit alone, and they're just playing through Roto this time, which maybe that's their strategy going into this draft. But they can easily choose to switch things up and go.
Oh man, but I mean, like, they could have just kept the pressure, because they knew they would go for the Herald now. Like, if they don't do the play right now and they wait a bit, then you can punish, right? So I mean, it means like he would just wait a wave more to get the turret damage and go with a bigger wave, right? Like, it would be the same outcome in the end, just like not that he keeps pushing recklessly at the turret.
Yeah, and here you see Corki rotating to top, but he doesn't have anything to do, so this is not bad, right? Like, he's fonging towards top, but this is a play that should have been made 1 minute ago. Basically, this is the story of Uppercut, right?
Yeah.
Uppercut are ahead, but they have an early game composition, right? They should be ahead. right? Because they're going to get out. They don't even get outscaled that hard. But the key thing is that every single time they waste an opportunity to take a tower play, or they're 1 minute late on their rotation, 2 waves late, right?
Like literally to capitalize on their small advantages by draft.
Exactly. So I mean, they already have advantages, right? But it's a case of can you get even larger advantages? Yeah. And this is where they're not. What?
Oh, Flamengo just gave them a free opportunity.
Why would you go for that? Why would you go for that?
Like they got let's talk about this, because they got actually a very smooth pick off there on Tam Kench. Like that was very well played.
But why would you jump on Varys there? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, they just wasted everything. That makes no sense at all. I mean this was very fine.
So what you should do now is you should hold mid now, push mid, and go into deep vision bot side, or you notice that there's a wave slow stacking bot, right?
Yeah.
So now Galio stays mid, you push out the next wave, take the next wave aggressively, and you rotate towards bot with Kai'Sa, and you trade. Is tier 1 bot down? No, tier 1.
No, it's still up. You can stick up the wave, and why the jungler and support can take the vision, the AD carry can set up the wave.
Exactly. Okay, so that's what they should be doing. Okay, play. So what do they do instead? They choose to go for... this is what they're doing.
They're taking vision, but why do they go back? That's the question.
Okay, well, here...
Oh, okay. So, they just greed it out.
Yeah, they just greed out. So here, basically what they should do here is complete the rotation into bot wave, push the bot wave into tower, and get bot tier 1, right? Yeah. Right now, they're fighting into Corki Triforce Power Spike with... nothing, basically.
Yeah.
They have nothing. And for those people who don't know Corki so well, Corki is a champion which spikes extremely hard on Triforce and Rapid Fire. The problem is that Corki requires a bit of time to get to his Triforce, but once he hits his Triforce, he's one of the strongest champions in the game. So they've chosen to fight into Corki on his Power Spike. Not a lot more to say, really. Don't fight into Corki on his Power Spike. Push him in and rotate away from him, which is what they should have done. Okay. So next sequence of this game. So how are they going to show them?
I think this is a good time to talk about power spikes, right? Since we haven't really talked a lot about this, and you just mentioned the Corki power spike. So we're obviously in a power spike that favors a lot the early draft and poke-oriented draft on uppercuts, where first item is probably the most important item right now, right? Where they get the most stats from. When would you say is a turning point for Flamengo in this specific scenario?
It depends how the fight is taking place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Flamengo don't really want to team fight. They kind of want to 1-2-1 with Galio holding mid and with Kha'Zix flexing to both sides, right? So they don't really want to team fight. What they can do though is they have really fast map mobility, right? So they can transfer pressure from one side of the map to another side. So they're really playing they want to play pick. They want to make sure they deny vision on one side of the map and trap people in rotation, right? So that would have been the perfect point, right? They took a pick. So use your pick now and your map mobility advantage to transfer that pressure to, in this case, bot side, bot to mid. You can see what they're doing here. They want to cross map a lot aggressively. So here Drake is up. So they go in top side, they deny vision, and it's very dangerous. So in the jungle, Flamengo...
Whoa, Lucy! Okay.
Wait, well, what are you on? I'm on 1930.
Yeah. He just used his Hextech Flash. I think he wanted to use it to play on Fitz, but he flashed on the wrong side.
No, I think that he was thinking about it, and then they called the player.
Yeah.
But basically, the key thing here is with Flamengo's composition, you have a lot of map mobility, and you want to split the other team up as much as you possibly can, right?
Yeah.
Because then you can use Kai'Sa, you can use Kha'Zix invisibility, and you can use Galio to trap people. And it means their composition is extremely strong in the jungle because they can jump over jungle walls really well, right? Yeah. And this means that Uppercut kind of want to group up in 5 and start sieging towers in a lane. preferably 4-1 with Urgot defending against a split. Whereas what Flamengo want to do is they want to make a pick, and the way they make picks is deny vision, is to split up the map in a 1-3-1 and trap people in rotation, right? By denying vision on one side of the map. Normally the side which is away from Corki.
Yeah.
Corki does a lot of damage right now.
Oh, this is fairly...
It's unfortunate there from Robo.
Stayed a tick too long. Well, happens. Should not, but
he got power. He got power, so
it wasn't too bad.
He could have packed off immediately after.
And like actually, like because he died, they opened the opportunity for them to take mid as well.
Yep. So this is one of the reasons I like Uppercut's draft so much, because in order to win, Flamengo can't just group as 5, right? Because they don't win the team fight. So what they have to do is they have to split up the map. But Uppercut have a really good composition for handling that kind of style of play, right, with time catch. Because they can
just punish.
They can engage on you mid, or they can like collapse on your side really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And so the only way that Flamengo can sort of do Flamengo want to 1-3-1, but really they can't 1-3-1 into time catch because they can't get mid priority against time catch Varus. So what they need to do is they need to hard commit it to one side and maybe come out and go 2-3-0 or something like this. But what we saw here is, Uppercut playing their composition correctly and Flamengo not, right?
Yeah. And now actually like that, which is an interesting point to be, because now that Baron's up, we're almost at the 2-item range for everyone, and that's where things start to get interesting, because not only is this an important power spike for the Kaiser, where Kaiser starts to really become a threat, and they can definitely burst like the Varus very easily now. So Uppercut has to be more careful with that. But as well, it's a very important one because like they can just straight out outrange and take turrets for free if Flamengo gives an opportunity to Uppercut right now. And they have also the mid tier 1. So the wave pressure will always be on Uppercut for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
The problem is, how are they going to play through sides, right? So somebody here has to set up. Time Kench, why are you so far up? So somebody has to set the side wave, and they have to use their mid prio to rotate into one of the sides to take one of the tier 2s.
Exactly. But who is going to be there?
Well, Corki could have done it. Urgot could have done it. And then they have mid prio and time catch, so they should be doing it. But maybe they're stalling the game to get Drake. That's what I can think.
This might be a thing, yeah. I don't think they want to risk it already on Baron. Even though they could actually. Like they could slowly force Baron pressure. I mean, they have definitely seen they have Urgot, Corki, and Varus. Like their Baron play is very fast.
I mean, right now, Uppercut are extremely strong, right? They have 2-item power spike on Corki, they have 2-item spike on Varus, which is also extremely strong, and they have 2-item spike on Urgot, which is also extremely strong, right? So Flamengo cannot fight right now, and this means that Uppercut can pretty much do what they want to do on the map.
Oh, that was well played. But why is the TP of Fitz going behind like them right now?
I'm not sure.
Like this was I was thinking about.
Tamkins didn't use W either.
No, he did to save alternative.
No, I mean, sorry, he didn't use his E.
Yeah, no, I don't think he had time for that. Like he did this pretty correctly. No, he couldn't. They burst him while he was knocked up. Like the thing is, well, what I was thinking, like they were maybe just like stalling because it's a Inferno Drake after all. I don't think this would be too bad of a pickup. Like since they are definitely going late game in this setup. So like even with more pressure of poke delaying the Baron, I don't think that's a bad idea to say the least. But I think they could have prioritized like right now the Baron simply because they still have the tier 1 mid. Like they could still like prioritize the Baron, and then in case like they didn't get any fight or any advantage from Flamengo mistake, since they were pressuring Baron, they could still have gone for Drake, right? So they just prioritized wrong, and now with the TP play again mistaken, they are on the back foot. But Flamingo is greedy out again for the second time now after a mistake punished. But
I mean, it's hard for Flamingo to execute this composition, right? Because they don't win 5v5 team fights.
Yeah.
I mean, and they don't really win the split push either. Like, this is one of the reasons why I didn't really like the Kazakhs, because they gave up lane prior early against something which you want to punish early. Like, here they're really relying on uppercut to not punish them in the early game. Like, they have no source of power that they can play through. I mean, yes, Kai'Sa spikes really hard, but Kai'Sa spikes at the same time as Corki spikes.
Yeah.
So Corki is going to spike harder, and the only way that like they don't win team fights. I don't really know how they win. Like, maybe something like, was Nocturne up?
Wait, I have to just check again. Wait, I'm gonna scroll back, right? So we can take a look. I think he was banned saying rotation, yeah.
No, Nocturne was banned.
Nocturne was banned by Uppercut.
Yeah. I don't really know what you pick here, but like, this Kazakhs doesn't do it. Anyway, let's continue.
Wait, it was...
we were here.
Bit earlier, right? Am I correct?
We were here. They just took the Drake. They literally just took the Drake.
Yeah, so this should be more accurate. So, now they're resetting, setting up waves again. So, what's the next thing to go here? Like, Uppercut has to start doing something right now, right? So, they have to start making things happen.
What Uppercut want to do is they want to go for one, right? Okay. Uppercut have two ways that they can play, right? They can either go 5-0, okay, or they can go for one.
Yeah.
If they go for one, they contest mid. Wow. Corki does so much damage right now.
Yeah. Like, wouldn't they be so ahead? The team comp right now, they would have lost this fight so badly because they misplayed it super hard. Actually,
yeah. Like, here, I mean, you can group as 5, right? You have, as Uppercut, you have two choices, right? You either group as 5 and use your range advantage on Varus and Corki, or you go 4-1 and defend this Baron must get stolen. Like, I can't imagine how Flamingo can win.
Yeah.
I don't understand how Flamingo can win this game unless they steal this Baron.
So, it's like the...
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go. So,
oh, boy. So that's why you pick Kazakhs, right? Oh, no way, dude.
This game is tragic. It's absolutely tragic.
Oh, boy. Okay, I think they're tilted now because, like, this is like the worst scenario possible to happen.
Yep.
Oh no.
But anyway, so just going back into the draft, how do Uppercut win this game? Basically, Uppercut need to group, get lane priority through their numbers advantage, and basically poke from distance, right?
Yeah.
They have a composition which outscales extremely hard. They have bigger range advantage. And it's impossible to play split push against the Tahm Kench that they've got holding mid, right? So they shouldn't really lose any lanes, and any team fight. This is all about giving the Galio, right? So you give Galio, which is really good in an engage composition, and you then play disengage, poke into it, right? So the Galio actually is pretty worthless in this game. And this is remember when we were talking about draft earlier, we talked about giving up power picks in order to get a counter strategy, right? So they recognized that they could give up the Galio and then draft disengage in order to beat Galio. So this is something which Uppercut have done well. They played around their early prior correctly, but every single time where they have a play or strategy, they always just miss out, right? They don't zone the Kazakhs properly.
Yeah.
They don't, you can burst the Baron down, right? Like, you keep the Baron on 3k and be in a position to turn, right?
Yeah.
And
oh.
No, but this is tilt play. Like, I mean,
like technically the game was over here because like if there was a scenario for Flamengo to really take this game, was the only thing that Kha'Zix could have done better for the team was like literally to steal the Baron, because Uppercut has no hard CC, right? So
I mean, Kha'Zix did basically nothing this game. But what I will say about this is, even from here, Uppercut should win the game.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
They have a 3-item cookie, and they're about to get second Inferno Drake.
Yeah, which is like super important for them to not give up. But as well, like
they have Ocean Drake as well, right?
So they still have also a reasonable gold lead, right? So it's far from over.
It's definitely. Far from over. In fact, I would say they're still favourite, right?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Give up positioning. So here, they were late on their reset with Tom Kench, which meant that
Flamengo has better
positioning on the Dragon, but this should still be fine because if Uppercut group is 5, they can just step forward and they have a range advantage, right?
Yeah. Also, they have like super good positioning with Corki now, so they can pressure mid lane and Drake equally at the same time, because like he has package, right? No, he doesn't.
Right? You block this choke point so that they can't come through with Urgot, and sure enough, they get 2 in front. So
that was still very this was basic Sternbook play by Uppercut actually.
Okay, fast forward through the pauses.
Yeah. Oh, holy shit! That's a long pause.
So I mean, basically, whilst we're going through this, okay, so play. The story of this game is basically Flamengo gave up 3 pushing lanes and losing jungle.
Yeah.
Were countered in draft in terms of strategy because they're playing an engaged comp into disengage.
Yeah.
And they managed. I know that they won this game, but they managed to stay in the game through individual outplays. But I'm still really curious how Uppercut managed to lose this game from here, because they should not lose.
Yeah, I'm curious as well.
But if you look at all the things that Uppercut were doing well in the early game, right? They were stacking waves properly. They were using jungle pressure into stack waves. These are all things which are smart, good macro strategies, right? Like they played the game okay from ahead. They weren't insane or anything because they didn't maximize their advantages, but you can see that this is a team that is
playing solid League of Legends.
Yeah, it's well coached, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't stop people TPing in with Urgot to try to fight at level 4 when you have full priority on the wave.
Yeah.
But what you can do is you can coach them in what strategies they need to use in order to be able to win. Instantly, you saw how much one Corki auto did there to Kai'Sa. Basically took 30% of her health because she's just healed up a bit. And this shows why Corki is so broken at this point in the game, especially against a short range position.
Yeah. So, what happens here? Like, they're doing everything correct. Like, it must be a Baron misplay, because Shrimp is already there waiting.
So, I mean, the correct play to do here is you push up mid wave, and you deny vision. You put one person on top wave, you send 4 people onto mid wave, and then you deny vision in enemy red buff jungle. So Kha'Zix here cannot kill Corki. I'm pretty sure Corki just turns around.
Yeah. Just EQ ults and he's dead.
Like if this Kha'Zix was 5-0, maybe he could, but right now I'm pretty sure Corki just watches it.
Like, he's actually doing a good job because like nobody knows he's there, right? So you're just like trying to punish a mistake. Like probably the most accurate thing, like they want to try to get alternative or the chase out.
But here you saw how much damage Poppy was taking, right?
Yeah.
Like that's their primary tank, right?
Yeah.
And here you see Urgot doesn't need to group with the team. Urgot just needs to push out bot wave.
Yeah. So.
Oh dear God.
This is like not what should happen. No, like go into a narrow spot, give a free engage to them where the team cannot follow up, and you lose your main damage dealer.
Key thing is to remember the composition. How do Uppercut win games, right?
Yeah.
They win by fighting in lanes and by grouping as 5 and using their range advantage, right?
Oh, they graded out again.
They just ran through a choke as 5. So all they need to do there is push up mid and group as 5.
Yeah.
And their Corki is already doing so much damage to enemy backline. Flamengo can't split push against them, and all they need to do is group as 5 and hit frontline, and then they win the game. Just don't chase. And is that the game?
Yeah, that's the game.
What a tragic game. What a tragic game. Okay, so if you're the uppercut coach, this is a really sad thing to go and look at, because basically you set your team out it's almost impossible to win a draft less hard than they won this draft. This doesn't mean that Flamengo's draft is awful. It just means that strategically, uppercut's draft should win against Flamengo's draft almost every time, right?
Yeah.
Even
the way they played, actually, they were doing most things right.
But the problem is that basically Flamengo had no control over this game and had to rely on mistakes from the enemy team because they drafted 3 losing lanes and losing jungle. Now, if they'd had a Sinjao or something, maybe they could have forced something in the early game instead of relying on mistakes. But the Kazakhs undoubtedly kept them in the game with the Baron steal, right?
Yeah.
But there is no way that even after that Baron steal that you would expect Flamengo to win that game, because all uppercut had to do is either go full 1 or group as 5 and hit frontline.
Yeah.
And they were unable to do that, so I guess you say that is a deserved victory for Flamengo, because they punished the mistakes and they made very few mistakes themselves.
Definitely.
So that's a summary of this game.
Yeah.
I can't really talk too much more after this because it's getting quite late. It's now getting
I just want to say we actually did a bit longer than expected in Mensch, plus the delay at the start. So Peter, before I close out the show, do you want to give any shout-outs?
No, it's been very pleasant to talk to you. Should we answer some chat questions before we go to bed? If
you have seen a few that I didn't miss, or if anyone in the chat right now has a few questions to ask, go ahead. Not, this is the chance. This is the time.
Well, we've been talking for quite a long time, so maybe everybody is quite tired. So let's call it for that for tonight. But thank you very much for inviting me onto the show. It's always a pleasure to talk league with you. And yeah, that's all really.
Yeah, well, the pleasure's all mine, my friend, because again, you proved once again that you know far much better and a lot more things that I do about League. And it was I hope everybody watching could learn a few things or two. In case you missed the show and you're just tuning in now, don't be scared. There will be a VOD on YouTube, on the Puppets Dojo YouTube channel. And next week, probably again on 9:30 every Tuesday, we'll have the next episode of Puppets Dojo live here on stream. So Peter, thank you very much. Once again, thank you everybody for watching. And we're gonna see you guys next week. So bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Good evening. See you.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching the new episode of Puppets Dojo. If you liked it, make sure to check out the other links in the description here below. I put on the article links that mentions in the podcast, also in the description below. And also maybe check out the other videos I have here in place, because there will be a lot more coming. So subscribe to the channel and enjoy and share it with your friends if you like. So thank you very much. See you next time, next Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. CET on Dr. Puppet on Twitch. See ya.